Hi, everyone. This is Camden Bucey with Squared Away Life. Now, in my last video, I shared how I review notes from 3 time horizons each and every morning. But several of you may be asking the obvious question, what exactly should I be capturing? Well, here's the truth. I failed at this twice before it finally stuck. Both times, I made the same mistake. I thought I needed to write perfectly crafted journal entries. I'd sit down, I'd stare at a blank page with a really nice pen. I'd give up after a few days of forced and awkward paragraphs. But then I changed my approach entirely. Now, the goal isn't to write beautiful prose, there's a time and a place for that. But here, with the daily capture, it's time to think out loud, just to verbalize what you're noticing and get it somewhere where it can live and where it can last and where you can retrieve it. But here's an actual note from my system. From 11:15, this was 11:15 in the morning. I put the location, Chicago, Illinois. Said, had a good meeting with Mark, Mike, and Jim this morning. We're going ahead with the creative agency's proposal, and then we will continue to work on a larger strategic plan for the other components that we discussed. That's it. No deep reflection. No poetry. That'll all come later. But at this point, on the capture, it's just the facts that future me will want to know. Now, every evening, or maybe if I'm being realistic, the next morning if I forget, I capture what I actually did, not my to-do list, but what really happened. I capture key decisions that I made and why I made them. I capture how I'm feeling. One sentence is enough often. Then I capture any metrics that matter to me. Might be my weight, might be how many calls I made to donors or to customers. It might be how many words I wrote on the project I'm working on. Whatever you're tracking, you can capture that. And then I might capture something I noticed. It could be anything from a funny thing that my kid said to a business insight I had, maybe something I heard on a podcast that stuck out to me. Whatever it is, that stuff gets captured. This takes 5 minutes, sometimes less. And if you break it up and even do it during the day, it's even faster and more distributed. But beyond the daily basics, I capture a few other things. I often try to capture my predictions or perhaps any gut feelings I have. Something like you might be thinking, I'm 90% certain this new marketing approach will increase engagement by at least 30%. And when you review these kinds of things later, you'll start to learn where your intuition is reliable and where it isn't. Might help you in your fantasy football league, for example. But I also try to capture solutions to problems, even small ones. Maybe you were hammering around and trying to figure out this Excel formula, and you finally cracked the code and got it to work. Record that. Maybe you were looking for some sort of workaround for a software bug or something. Capture that. I also try to record meeting outcomes. Not the whole meeting. If I have permission, I'll certainly try to track entire transcripts. I have somewhere else where I put that stuff. But here in my journal, with the basic capture, I don't capture the whole meeting, just the decisions and the next steps. And then I try to capture some health stuff as well. Maybe if I'm feeling sick, I start to say, I've got a bit of a sore throat. Or I'll start to log if I've something's flaring up with my knee due to running. I will log that along with the date on that note. So then I can start to track how I'm feeling. And then in 2 weeks, I start to realize I've got a real pain. I can go back. The doctor asks, hey, when did you start having this pain? I can look in my notes. You can start to track things and see things over time. This is the value of daily capture. But what should you not capture? You don't want to log everything. You need to have attention to the things that are important and valuable to you in the long run. So it's important not to capture everything. So I often try to stay away from capturing long meeting transcripts in this location, just the outcomes. I don't try to capture other people's content verbatim. If I heard something on the podcast, I don't just copy and paste exactly what they said and throw that into my notes without including some context or my own thoughts about it. You need to make the content your own, appropriate it somehow, process it. I don't capture complaints without solutions. You can vent to your wife, to your friends. You can vent to a tree. But maybe venting in your notes might not be so helpful, especially in the long run. And I often try not to capture daily minutia that won't matter to me in a week, unless, for example, I'm recording how I feel about that. That might be important, and I would categorize that under, tracking my emotional intelligence or my feelings. And if I'm reacting strongly to daily minutia, then maybe I need to know that in the long run. But if it's just, hey, I ordered an ice cream cone, unless you have strong feelings about that particular ice cream cone, or you had strong thoughts about that business or that place and that experience, you don't need to record all that stuff in your daily notes. Now, I mentioned it might be handy not just to do this all in one shot in the evening or in the morning, but you can capture throughout the day. And if you have certain tools and systems in place, you could do this in a way where it's not a heavy lift. I want to introduce you to a 10-second hack. I call it the voice memo hack. And here's really what made a lot of my daily capture stick for me. It's using the voice memo app on my iPhone. Let's say you're walking between meetings and you have a thought, record it in a voice memo. Record what you're about to do in a voice memo. When you're coming out of the meeting, record what happened in a voice memo. When you're driving home, maybe with an idea or listening to a podcast, safely record a voice memo. You just made a decision about something, record a voice memo. You'll notice if you're using an iPhone, for example, the built-in voice memo app now automatically transcribes your voice memos. And you can copy and paste that text and then throw it into your notes in a simple way. And I've got all sorts of interesting systems, really wonderful tools, tips, and tricks for getting that stuff into a unified system. But we don't need to talk about that right now. I'm just talking big picture. The idea is to start to log your thoughts, capture your thoughts so that you can review your thoughts and eventually process your thoughts. So it's important that you start small. Just start ridiculously small. If you're starting today, you're starting from scratch, just sit down and capture 3 things. One thing you did, one decision you made, and one thing you noticed today. That's it. Put that in a text file or write it on a page in your notebook. Date it. Keep it safe. You do that for 7 days, and then next week you'll have something meaningful to review. And then after a month, you'll start to notice some patterns emerging. Then after a year, you'll really have built something valuable, an external record of your thinking, your growth, even your problem solving. Now at this point, we're only talking about basic journal entries. When we get to capturing your research, your goals, your strategies, your own personal processes for achieving them, then it's going to be like adding rocket fuel to your knowledge engine. But we're not there yet. We'll get there. Stay tuned. And in our next video, I'll show you exactly how these 3 horizons work and why reviewing your notes from 1 week, 1 month, and every year ago creates such powerful perspective shifts. But for now, just start capturing. Open a note, write today's date, record one thing. Your future self will thank you. So if you're interested in this and you want to master my daily review method, you want to hear more, please join me for a live webinar where I will share templates, tools, answer your questions. You can head on over to squaredawaylife.com/daily review to see availability and to register. Thank you.